are so many moments that stand out for me, forgettable, unforgettable, forever. And the day before the court opened was one of them. I remember it was October of 1993, and in fact it was more the night than the day before it opened. Many of us were there. It was almost like the night before the senior prom or something like that. We were just trying to think of everything. No, one thing I especially remember is that we were pleased about our holding areas, that they're not cells. They're not cells with bars. I mean, that kind of is representative of what we're trying to do, the constructive, positive attitude that we're trying to convey to the wrongdoer, to the public. Be accountable, but we're here to work together on something that could be really good for you. And so instead of bars and holding, jail cells, we had these glass areas where people would be detained until they were brought before the judge. And I remember John Feinblatt and I were there that night, and I'm sure he'll never forget it either. We actually took a light hammer to the glass because we knew we were going to be besieged the next day. Well, this idea began taking off a bit. And by this idea, I mean the idea of finding the court intervention, the moment of court intervention, to be a moment of opportunity to reroute a life. Not just a case disposition, but an opportunity to reroute a life from those 6-foot-long rap sheets that we see all the time, a life of constantly increasing, even leading to violence. Maybe we could get people off that. So we went from the Midtown Community Court, the very first community court. I think the drug treatment courts were next, as I recall. I'm not sure I have my chronology entirely correct, but I think so. I think it was like 1995 when we moved to drug treatment courts. And the idea was growing, and I said there was risk from the outset, but you have to know how to manage risk, and we needed to get maybe a little help from people who were good at innovation and who could look at these ideas more broadly. Why shouldn't we, as a large enterprise, have a research and development arm? It's almost unthinkable that a large organization in doing a huge job, having a huge responsibility, should not have somebody thinking forwardly, thinking innovatively, thinking like research and development organizations and arms of major businesses have. Why shouldn't we have that as well? Well, when I speak of a public-private partnership, I of course have in mind the partnership between the court system and the Fund for the City of New York. How lucky we were to have such a great partner, so supportive of our efforts, so committed to furthering the common objective. Because if you remember, this started with the neighborhood. This started with the community, and it always is about the neighborhood and the community. So what better partner could we have than the Fund for the City of New York? How do you accomplish reform in a system like ours? If I'll just reframe your question a tiny bit, because think of what we're like. We're the judicial system, the justice system, is rooted in tradition, rooted in precedents. And what we try to do, even in our judicial capacity, is keep the law stable. People should know what the law is. Stability is really important. Predictability is really important. And I think demonstration projects are a way to assure that our experimentation, our innovation, which is essential, is also judicious, wise, that prudent, because we're dealing with people's lives and we are dealing with a system of justice, and we have to be mindful of both of those, both the individual personal aspect and the community aspect. They get a lot of tours at the Midtown Community Court. I love taking the Chief Justices there when they came to visit. They always left so envious, and I always felt so proud. But one day we had the drug czar there and took him all through the court. But the most moving time we had together was in a small room around a round table with several of our graduates. And talk about tears. That man was in tears. He really was. Because these were all men in their maybe 30s or 40s who had never before had their own apartment, never before held a job, never before had a credit card or a checking account, and they, each one of them told his story. I just can never forget that day, or the day Janet Reno came to visit, because I say we always had lots of great tours going, school groups coming, yeah, really. But the day, I remember the day she came, and you know, there were a lot of criticisms, this is just an arraignment court. Well, no, it's not just an arraignment court, and I was so pleased to be able to stand alongside her and walk through the entire building from top to bottom. We saw everything, and it just knocked her socks off, no question about it, and I felt wonderful to be able to show her that.